I'm Nancy at Black Sheep Knitting here in Needham, Massachusetts. This is our weekly podcast, and I thank you for tuning in. If you like our podcast, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget, we do have a very active online shop with lots of yarn and notions. So if you're stuck at home or you don't live near a yarn shop, be sure to check us out. When we do shipping pretty quickly, as soon as we get your order, it's out the door that day or the next day. So it's a great way to get yarn if you are stuck inside or far away, or you just don't feel like going out, which is often what I do. I mentioned in the last podcast about doing a swatch in the round, a gauge swatch in the round. And I thought I would go over it again with you. In my class chastised me this morning because they said, you never told us this. Well, and I probably didn't. My gauge is the same pretty much when I knit and when I purl. But very often people have a different gauge when they purl. Their purl stitch is a little looser than their knit stitch. So what happens when you do a gauge swatch and you're supposed to do stockinette, and you knit one row, purl the next row, knit one row, purl the next row, and that's fine. You get a gauge, okay, great, and you start knitting your sweater in the round, because a lot of sweaters now are top down and in the round. Well, what happens, and can happen, doesn't always happen because it doesn't happen to me, your purl stitch can cause your gauge to be different than when you're knitting every stitch. So when you're knitting in the round, you're knitting every stitch and you're not purling at all. So if you do how do you do a gauge swatch in the round? And I'll show you, it's very simple. You need to be on a circular needle, and I don't think we have to do a close-up. You can see you're going to knit across. So I'm going to knit across. I knit across here, and my yarn is here. So you're going to take all your stitches, slide them to the other end of the needle. Oh, sorry, I already did that. So you're going to take your yarn, if you slide it to the other end of the needle, here, your yarn where you stopped was here. You're going to bring it around the back and start knitting again. So every stitch is knit. You don't want to pull on this too tightly because it'll be hard to do your gauge, although many people just cut the strands in back, and I'll show you. So you'll knit across, and again, that means all your stitches are knit. So I'm going to take that out and explain it to you once more. So you can see across the back, here are the strands that I brought across the back. So here you are at the end of you knit across your row, and here you are, and normally you would, if you were doing stockinette, you would purl. But instead, you're going to take your needle and pull it, and you can only do this on a circular needle or a double pointed needle. And then I'm pushing it all the way to the other side of the needle. I'm going to bring my yarn around the back, and I'm going to start to knit. So this is an important thing to do. It saves you some time. And see, I'm just off knitting. So every stitch is knit. So that's doing a swatch in the round. If you're going to wash and block your swatch, you'll want to cut these strands so that your swatch sits flat. So you can do a swatch in stockinette. My glasses keep slipping, sorry. If you like, but knitting, back and forth in knit one row, purl one row. But what you'll need to do is once you start knitting in the round, you're going to have to check your gauge. And very often your gauge is going to be different. And this happened to a student of mine, and she said, well, why is it so different? Well, when she was knitting away and knitting kind of tight. It was easy, and she just kept going. Well, when you stop and then purl a row, you can get much looser. And so as it turned out, her stockinette gauge that she did back and forth was looser than her gauge when she was knitting in the round. If you watched our podcast last week, I mentioned that it was our 99th, and today is our 100th, which I cannot even believe that I could have sat up here and talked 100 times, but I guess I did. So I thought to sort of celebrate that, I'd like to celebrate the people who work in this store and make this place run. So I'm going to show you, there'll be photos with each of our workers and a special thing they have on that they've knit. So the first one is Joanne. Joanne came to us as a student. She was a student in, I think it was the Wednesday class, and then somehow the Wednesday teacher left, I can't remember, or she moved away. And so I thought either Joanne volunteered, or I thought Joanne would be a great person to teach this class because she's so knowledgeable. She's been knitting for years. And we see Joanne here in this picture with her V-neck slipover from Petite Knits, and she loves Petite Knits. She was holding two yarns together, and I'm not exactly sure what they were, but I know she loves this wet vest and she wears it a lot. So Joanne teaches for us on Wednesday evenings and also works on some Saturdays. But Joanne has another career, a main career, which is as a nurse practitioner, and she's been doing that for a very long time and is incredible. We go to her, or I go to her all the time if I have some ailment, because she's super smart and knows what she's talking about. So we love that she will spend some time here with us in the shop, as well as working this very high pressured job. So the next person I have is Lisa. Lisa has been working here for a long time. She was initially in a class, I believe, and then I asked her, she's been knitting for years and years, and I asked her to share the Saturday class with me. So she said she would do that. So we kind of do every other weekend, or it all depends. Lisa is known for knitting a lot of socks and shawls, and she's seen here in the Mesa sweater wrap and shawl. It's a pattern by Romy Hill, or Rosemary Hill, calls herself Roma. And she designs lots of shawls. So Lisa, in her other life, is a CFO at a nonprofit in Boston. So she works very hard at that, and we're so happy that she will give us some of her time and expertise here on the weekends. And you can sometimes see her during a big sale. She'll come in and help out. Next, we have Deanna. And Deanna is here in a cozy, what do you call it? Like a cowl, I don't know what you call it. It's like a big cowl that comes over your shoulder. It's called Getting Warmer by Espace Tricot. She knit it in Woolfolk Luft, which we don't carry. But she says she has great memories of it, that she was knitting while she was in the hospital waiting for the birth of her daughter, Kate, who is now 4 years old, and I know that because she's the same age as my grandson. Deanna, I taught to knit many years ago at JP Knit and Stitch, if some of you remember that store. And Deanna is now a full-fledged PhD English professor at Merrimack College. So we get lots of hints and tips about writing and reading and so forth from Deanna, super brilliant woman, and we're so happy to have her. She teaches on Monday nights, and sometimes you can see her here on a Saturday working in the shop. Next we have Beth. So Beth comes to us from, she retired and joined a class. And right away I knew she was a superstar knitter. And she retired from banking, so she was in banking for years and years. And she agreed to come on and join us working in the shop. So she's here 2 afternoons a week, and you can often find her on a Saturday here knitting. She's wearing Ambient, I think Ambient, by Erie. And she's knitted in Madeline Tosh sock with a strand of Isayer mohair. She said she worked the yoke 3 times to size it properly. So she is a perfectionist, and we do appreciate that about her. Beth is a marvel. She's always, you can always see her restocking shelves and straightening up downstairs and helping customers. She's wonderful with customers, and we really appreciate her so much. Next, we have Paige. And Paige is the mom of 2 young children, and she kept coming into the shop with these beautiful things on, and I kept thinking in the back of my mind, we really should hire her because she's a beautiful knitter, she's so sweet and so nice. And then lo and behold, I found a message on my desk one day from Paige wanting to know if we had any openings in the shop. So I said, oh, this is perfect. So we've hired her, and you can find her teaching on Tuesday mornings and working in the shop on Tuesday afternoons and some weekends. She's wearing the Easy V by Caitlin Hunter, and I love this, and she says she loved knitting it and especially likes the neckline. She used Spin Cycle for the color work, and she wasn't sure. She likes to wear things because she's thin and lovely and young. She likes to wear more fitted things, so she wasn't sure she was going to like it being kind of loosely fit, but she says she wears it all the time and loves it. So we so love having, I like having younger people in the shop because they can keep me on the straight and narrow, sort of, and they're a little bit more hip than I am, so we really appreciate Paige a lot. Next is Leslie. So Leslie came to us a number of years ago before I even owned the shop. She had worked at another yarn shop and came and wanted to knit or to work here. And she's been in a bunch of different roles here, working in the shop and now teaching. She's now just teaching on Monday mornings. She has a class, so you can find her here from 11 to 1. And Leslie is an expert knitter. She's been knitting for a long time. And I always love to see what she is knitting because she's always keeping up with what's new. And she always posts all her projects on Ravelry. So you can kind of follow her. She's called Sticks and Stones. It's an N, not and. Sticks and Scones. So you can find her and her projects on Ravelry. The sweater she's wearing is called Robinia. And it's an Ann Wenzel pattern. She's a designer who designs beautiful, beautiful things. And Leslie said this is her favorite sweater she's done this year. She had a hard time, I guess it was a challenge, finding the combination of yarns for the main color. And it's got short rows, and she said it forced her to work on her color work, but was fun to knit and fun to wear. I would look up Ann Wenzel's patterns. They're really, really quite good. So I always love to see what Leslie's doing, and I tend to do some of the same things. I think I have an old picture sometime I'll show it of the 2 of us having knit the exact same sweater. It wasn't in the same colors though, but I think we've done that more than once. Next up is Agnes. And Agnes hails from Latvia, and she came to us. We have a customer whose husband is Latvian, and one day she said, oh, I have a friend who would really like to work in a yarn shop. Would you like to meet her? So Agnes came to the shop with these gorgeous things that she had knit. And right away I knew her personality is, she's charming, kind, and lovely to every customer who comes in. And she's just a brilliant knitter. She knits full-length dresses, if you can imagine, and she can do them, she often does them in a couple of weeks, so she's knits so fast. So Agnes teaches on Tuesday evenings and works on Wednesday afternoons and Friday afternoons. And already she's got a great following. People love to have her help them. She just is brilliant. And she does a lot of test knitting for people. She sometimes works for a company and does their sample knits for their designs, I believe. And she's just a master. And she does a lot of crocheting for this one company. The sweater she's wearing, she says, is her favorite sweater. It's called Lazy Sunday State of Mind Sweater by Nancy Ritchie. It's beautiful, and it looks cozy and comfortable, and she often wears it in the shop. We are so happy to have Agnes here, and she would love me to remind all of you that Latvia is not part of Russia. Some people, for some reason, think that is. But Latvia is its own country, and she did this amazing thing where she organized knitting socks, and a lot of you participated. We knit socks for soldiers in Ukraine. So Agnes took some over, and then some other people took them in suitcases to Latvia, where they were then taken to Ukraine. And if you saw last week, we showed a huge bag of stuff that were I'm sorry, somebody's just coming in the door. Baby sweaters and blankets and so on. So we're so grateful to Agnes for organizing that. Next, we have Viola. Well, Viola, this place would not run without Viola. Viola does our bookkeeping, she does online orders, she does scheduling. There practically isn't anything that Viola doesn't do in this store. She receives all the yarn when it comes in. She solves all our computer problems. So we couldn't run the shop without Viola. Viola hails originally from Iceland. So she started knitting when she was young, like Agnes did. And she is a super fast knitter and an adventurous knitter. She came to the shop. She would come in and show us these gorgeous, gorgeous lace shawls and things she was knitting. And I said, we have to hire her. So she started working here before I owned the shop and has been here ever since. So that's probably going on 10 years. I don't know, I'd have to ask her how long. Viola loves woolly wools, as well as soft yarn. She is the mother of 4 grown children, and she was a nurse in a past lifetime, in past life. But she is known for her patience and kindness to customers. She teaches a lot of private lessons, and she's just a wonder. I used to call her, maybe she doesn't know this, but I call her Radar. If you remember in MASH, how Radar could just was always thinking ahead of everybody. And if I think of something or say something about something, Viola very quietly comes from the other end of the room with whatever it was I was looking for or talking about. So she is like Radar. And we try really hard to catch Viola in a mistake, but you never can. She doesn't make mistakes. We think she's perfect, and we all look up to her because she's so fabulous. And then we have Robin, who I couldn't do this without Robin. Robin is our videographer, and she just performs magic every week. And she was in a class, and one day we got talking, and she said, her background was in TV. She and her husband had worked in television, and that she was working for a wine shop and doing online things for them, or advertising, I don't know, marketing. I don't remember exactly how. But anyway, we got talking, and I said, wow, do you think you could do videos? And she said, oh yes. So she's been with us quite a while, and her knitting has come so far. She's amazing, and she's adventurous and knits quite quickly. She is wearing the Girlfriend Sweater by Anka, and she's knitted in Isair Alpaca 2 and Isair Silk Mohair. This is a wonderful cardigan, and I think her sister was making it. She and her sister were making it at the same time, and she was sort of bemoaning the fact that her sister was way ahead of her. But I suspect her sister isn't quite as busy as Robin is, running around doing all these other jobs. Anyway, I'm trying to convince her to work in the shop, and maybe that will happen someday, but I so appreciate her. She's always right on getting me to do things ahead of time, which is a tough, anybody who knows me, that's tough to do, because I always say, never do today what you could put off till tomorrow. So she keeps me on the straight and narrow in terms of at least getting these podcasts published. Next, we have Catherine. And Catherine is a retired banker, as the same as Beth. I don't know that they did the same thing, but Catherine was a customer of the shop and always bought beautiful yarn and had beautiful knits on. And I can't remember if she said it. I think she said, boy, I would really love to work here. And I said, okay. So she's been working for us for quite a while, and she is just an expert knitter. She does share her time between here and her home in New Hampshire, so we don't really see her much in the summer. But she has, and then she took a leave for a while, but she's back working now on Thursday afternoons, thank goodness, because we love having her here. And she is just so patient and wonderful with customers, and she's taught workshops for us, and the people just raved at how thorough she was and what beautiful things they made with her help. And so we appreciate that. I think she's thinking about doing another workshop soon, another hat. So you have that to look forward to. She's wearing Bee's Knees, which is a Thea Coleman pattern. And I thought somebody else was doing, oh yeah, I forgot to say, let me just go back quickly to Viola. She's wearing a pattern called Nor'easter, which is also a design of Thea Coleman, and it's just beautiful. I think she had put it down for a while for whatever reason, because she was probably like me, some other shiny object came in front of her and she decided to knit that, but she picked it back up and finished it. It's just beautiful. So Catherine's sweater that she's wearing is called Bee's Knees by Thea Coleman, and she said it was one of her favorites that she's made. It has a lot of cabling in it, and Catherine loves cables. She said it was impeccably written, easy to follow, and because she loves cables so much, this was just the perfect sweater for her. So we try not to count the days till Catherine goes away for the summer, but the summer, it'll go by and hopefully she'll be back. So I don't think she leaves until May, so we still have some good time with her. And then finally we have Bonnie, and we didn't catch up with Bonnie there may still be a picture of something that she knits. But Bonnie teaches on Fridays, and she also came to us as a knitter in the shop. She came in with knitted things and was in some workshops, I think. And she's an avid attendee of Vogue Knitting. She and her friend Susie Cohen go to Vogue Knitting all the time and take classes, and so she's learned a lot doing that. So we finally were able to hire her to teach on Fridays, and I think she's been off and on working on Saturdays. She has a quiet, lovely demeanor, and she's very helpful to customers when they come in. So you'll see her floating around, and hopefully we'll get a picture of her. So that's our staff. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. I just love everybody. They work so hard, and they're so good about coming on time and working hard, and are so good with the customers. I think we get a lot of raves about how people come in and we make them feel welcome. We appreciate your feedback if you have had a problem. You should always remember that, like everybody else, we do have bad days from time to time. I think I'm the one that somebody would complain about the most. But we so appreciate the people who work here, and we have a lot of fun. They're great people, and I hope that you love them too. Oh, I forgot myself. I'm wearing Alpenglow, I'm stepping on the microphone, which I knit for going to Rhinebeck, which everybody did. I knit it in my main color is a yarn that I dyed, and then the others are, this is Moondrake, Surrey Alpaca, and Sueño here, and then Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool is the color work. I have to say this is one of my favorite sweaters. So I can tell you how I came here, and you've probably heard this before, but when this shop first opened, probably in 2003, I was living in Needham at the time, and I thought, well, here's a yarn shop. I like to support local businesses, so I thought I'll go in and buy some yarn and knit a scarf I had been knitting, but not very much. And I was a potter for many, many years and taught art and ceramics. And I just got obsessed with knitting right then, and I'd hurt my shoulder and had stopped teaching. So this was a perfect thing to do, and I eventually started working here, and then eventually bought the shop. So we're going into our 7th year here. So I think I've been here maybe 17 years. It doesn't seem like it could be that, because I still love coming to work. I love every part of the business. It's so much fun to get new yarns all the time and pick out projects and to teach. I do a lot of teaching. I teach on Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, and every other Saturday. And then sometimes I do workshops. I find it a lot of fun. I love meeting all the customers, and I really love seeing what you all knit. So that's me, and I'll say goodbye again. Have a great week.